Let's get right into this explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the absolute wildest, most historically rich sporting traditions left on the planet. I'm talking about Ashbourne Royal Shrovetide football. And let me tell you, this is a game that practically throws every single modern athletic convention right out the window. So what happens when an entire town becomes a football pitch? Just picture this. Thousands of people, absolutely zero boundaries, and a grueling 8-hour clock ticking down. We aren't looking at some neatly manicured 90-minute match here. No, we're talking about a fiercely intense physical clash that literally takes over the streets, the fields, and, yeah, even the local river. It's what's known as mob football. Dating way back, this was a centuries-old free-for-all that used to be totally normal across British towns and villages like 500 years ago. It's basically the chaotic ancestor to both modern soccer and rugby. And while it vanished almost everywhere else as society modernized, it survived in a few stubborn, incredibly proud places. Most famously, of course, right in Ashbourne. Let's nail down the basics. This epic showdown happens every single year in Ashbourne, Derbyshire, specifically on Shrove Tuesday and Ash Wednesday. And the endurance required? It's honestly mind-boggling. Play kicks off at 2 p.m. and doesn't stop until 10 p.m. That's 2 grueling 8-hour shifts. And the pitch isn't a field, it's the entire town, stretching over 3 massive miles between the 2 goals. Now, you might be wondering, how do they even pick teams? Well, there's no draft, no tryouts. It all comes down to geography, specifically which side of the River Henmore you were born on. Born north of the river, you're an uppard. Born on the south side, you play for the downards. It is a massive rivalry that is quite literally your birthright. Moving into Section 1, Origins and the Diaspora, a tradition older than the rulebook. Let's see where this madness all started. Tracing the timeline, mass street football actually goes all the way back to the 12th century. The first rock-solid reference to Ashbourne's specific game pops up in 1667, though if you ask the locals, they'll swear it's way older than that. Sadly, the earliest records went up in smoke during an 1890s committee office fire, but this game is nothing if not resilient. I mean, a similar game in nearby Derby got shut down in 1846 after the actual Riot Act was read, but Ashbourne, they just kept right on playing, eventually even catching the eye of the British monarchy in the 1920s. And the history is just packed with these incredible, defiant little stories. Like back in the 1860s, authorities tried hard to shut the whole thing down, but a local woman, Elizabeth Woolley, literally saved the game by hiding the massive ball under her skirt. She just walked right past the police who were trying to break it up and tossed it to the waiting players. Unbelievable, right? Now, Ashbourne is definitely the most famous, but it's not totally alone. A handful of other towns in the UK fiercely protect their own ancient versions of this. You've got Atherstone, Workington, Jedburgh up in Scotland, and the Bogame in Kirkwall, Orkney. They are really the absolute last bastions of this forgotten era of sport. All right, on to Section 2, Method to the Madness. Because despite the chaos, there are surprisingly few rules holding it all together. The rulebook is actually fascinatingly short. For starters, no carrying the ball in a motorized vehicle, so no, you can't just jump at a car and speed to the goal. You also can't hide it in a bag or a coat. Out of respect, cemeteries, churchyards, and memorial gardens are strictly off-limits, and while it is an incredibly physical game, intentional, unnecessary violence is heavily frowned upon. Oh, and no matter what's going down, play absolutely has to stop at 10 p.m. So how do you actually win? Well, scoring, or goaling, is a monumental task. First, this giant scrum of people, which they call the hug, has to battle through the town to reach one of the historic stone pyramids that are 3 miles apart. And it's not just a quick tap. These goals are literally in the river, so the player chosen to score has to jump into the freezing waters of the River Henmore and physically tap the ball against the stone 3 times. Bang, bang, bang. That's the only way to do it. Okay, Section 3. The artifacts. This brings us to the hand-painted heart of the game. The Shrovetide ball isn't just sports equipment. It's a meticulously crafted artifact. It's noticeably bigger and heavier than your standard football, made from this really stout cowhide leather. But here's the clever part. It's packed tight with Portuguese cork, so it actually floats when the game inevitably spills into the river. And it's beautifully hand-painted by local artists, with custom designs representing the life of the specific dignitary chosen to start that day's game. Which perfectly explains the royal in Royal Shrovetide. Back in 1922, Princess Mary was given one of these stunning painted balls for her wedding, which happened to fall on Shrove Tuesday. She was so moved by the gift that she gave the game royal patronage. That connection got even stronger when the Prince of Wales, and later Prince Charles, actually came out to start the game themselves. Section 4. Survival, Tradition versus Modern Safety. Let's talk about the modern era. You're probably sitting there thinking, is this game actually dangerous? Well, yeah. When you have hundreds of people packed into a massive, shoving scrum, squeezing through narrow streets, and plunging into icy rivers in the dead of winter, accidents absolutely happen. And the constant worry for the locals is whether those accidents will eventually hand the government the perfect excuse to ban it entirely, just like they did with pretty much every other mob football game in history. That fear of a ban is very, very real. The Shrovetide Committee is hyper-aware of modern safety laws. In fact, before a recent match, the chairman literally pleaded with the players saying, "Look after this game and it exists. Don't look after it and it will finish and finish forever." The whole thing survives purely on intense self-policing, local marshals, and a deep mutual respect so that nobody gets seriously hurt. But its historical resilience is just staggering. The only things that have ever forced a cancellation are extreme biological threats, specifically foot and mouth disease in 1968 and 2001, and then the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021. Other than that, not even the total devastation of World War I or World War II could stop Ashbourne from playing. They even sent painted Shrovetide balls out to the local lads fighting on the front lines in France. For the locals, this is way, way bigger than sport. They actually call it Ashbourne's Christmas. People who have moved away will travel from all corners of the globe just to be home for it. There's this deep cultural romance to it, mud and all, which was captured perfectly in a famous 1974 poem by a Shrovetide stalwart named Don Lowndes. That poem ends with a really powerful plea. So don't decry our ancient game and never show defeat. Let us see our children's children play Shrovetide in the street. And I think that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. In an increasingly sanitized, regulated world, what ancient, wild traditions would you fight to keep alive for your children's children?